You keep seeing this pattern in your life. People describe you as nice, reliable, good, always there for everyone. On the surface, that sounds like a compliment. But if you're honest, there's a part of you that's exhausted, resentful, and starting to notice a brutal truth. Being the good one has cost you your voice, your energy, and your own life. You're the one who doesn't cause any problems. You keep the peace. You say yes when you want to say no. You're the responsible one in your family, at work, in your relationships. And yet, you're also the one who lies awake at night feeling empty, wondering, when is it my turn? Why do I keep abandoning what I want the second someone else might be uncomfortable? If that lands, then this video is for you. In this video, I want to break down what I call the good child shadow, where it comes from, how it quietly sabotages your adult life, and how you can start stepping out of that role without feeling like you're a bad person. Before we dive in, if you resonate with self-sabotage, CPTSD, and you're feeling like your childhood still runs your life, then subscribe to 33 Mastery. This channel is where we do deep inner work, shadow work, nervous system work, and spiritual work to stop repeating the same patterns and actually live as who we are, not as who we were trained to be. Now let's start with this. The good child shadow isn't about being a good human being. It's about performing goodness in order to stay safe. When you were small, being good was your survival strategy. It's what you did to reduce the chances of being shouted at, shamed, or abandoned. Maybe you had a parent whose temper could fill the whole house. Maybe like me, you had a sibling that took most of the direct hits, got screamed at, had their things destroyed, punished publicly, and you watched and silently decided, I will never go back to that side of it. I will be the opposite. I will try to be perfect. So you learned the rules. You didn't talk back. You didn't show anger. You don't show much sadness. You don't ask for too much. You don't make adults, or you don't make anyone uncomfortable. You don't have any strong preferences, and most importantly, you don't rock the boat. Every time you followed those rules, you got some version of safety. Less yelling, less chaos aimed at you, maybe even praise. Every time you broke them, even a little, you saw or felt the consequences. Over time, your nervous system linked being good with survival and being yourself with danger. So fast forward up until now. You're an adult, but that program is still running. Only now it doesn't look like avoiding someone's rage, avoiding a parent's rage, for example. It looks like saying yes to extra work when you're already burnt out, staying in relationships where you're not met because you don't want to hurt anyone, never raising your prices or asking for more because you're afraid of being labeled as selfish, biting your tongue around family because you don't want to be disrespectful, even when they're crossing every boundary that you have. On the outside, you're still the good one. On the inside, you're abandoning yourself over and over. Now let's talk about how this shadow shows up in different areas in your life. In relationships, the good child shadow makes you into a caretaker. You're the one who listens, supports, forgives, adjusts, explains. You're attracted to people you can fix or save. If someone actually treats you well, part of you doesn't know what to do with it. You might feel uncomfortable, spacious, or even bored because there's no role for you to play. Healthy attachment feels unfamiliar, so you push it away and you don't even notice it. In your family, you became the emotional glue. You're the mediator, the peacemaker, the one everyone vents to. You're the late night calls. You're the only one who understands messages. On some level, you're proud of that, but on another level, you're drowning in it. You don't get to fall apart because you've always been the strong one. You don't get to have needs because your identity is built on being the one who needs nothing. At work or in your purpose, the good child shadow keeps you in line. You choose what's safe, respectable, familiar. You follow the path you were supposed to follow instead of the one you actually want. You over-prepare and underact. You collect information, qualifications, courses, but you hesitate to actually step out, speak, create, launch, because that would mean stepping out of the good employee, good son, good daughter role into something unpredictable. Even in your inner world, the shadow is loud. You feel guilty when you rest, guilty when you say no, guilty when you want to do something, guilty when you outgrow people, and guilty when you feel anger. Your nervous system is wired to interpret putting yourself first as danger, selfishness, betrayal, even when logically that's not true. So this is where the self-sabotage comes in that I spoke about in my last video. The good child shadow doesn't quietly sit in the background. It actively interferes the moment you start to do something that looks like you are choosing yourself. You decide you're going to set a boundary. Suddenly you're flooded with anxiety and thoughts like, they'll hate me, I'm overreacting, I can't do that. You back down, you tell yourself it's not worth it, and you go back to absorbing everyone else's stuff. You commit to a project that matters to you, starting a business, whether writing, making videos, leaving a job, and right when you're about to take visible action, you lose motivation, you get too busy, or you convince yourself that's not the right time. You label it as procrastination, but underneath it's that same old program. If I step out of line, something bad is going to happen. You get into a relationship where you feel like your needs might actually matter, and at first it feels good. Then as soon as your needs come up, you feel sick at the idea of voicing them. You either censor yourself or you go the other way and blow up after months of silence. Then you feel ashamed and you tell yourself, see, this is why I should just keep quiet. Look what happens when I speak. The good child shadow flies away as proof that it was right all along. So how do you break this cycle? The first step is to name the role. If you don't see it, you can't change it. Right now, just say to yourself, I've been playing the good child, not as an insult, but as a description. It's a role you've learned and it's not who you truly are. Then start catching it in real time. The next time you're about to automatically say yes to something, pause for a second and ask yourself, is this me or is this my good child shadow answering? The next time you're going to feel that wave of guilt for even thinking about putting yourself first, notice it and name it. That's the good child pattern kicking in. The second step is to start asking yourself a new question. The good child is always asking, what will they think? Will they be upset? Will they still like me? Will I be a good son, daughter, partner if I do this? You need to add a question that almost never got asked when you were growing up. What do I actually want here? What would I choose if nobody's feelings were my responsibility for the next 5 minutes? I'm not saying other people's feelings don't matter. I'm saying that your entire life has been built around other people or someone else specifically, and your voice is missing from your own decisions. The question is, how do you invite it back in? The third step is to practice in small ways. Don't start with the biggest confrontation or the most explosive boundary. If your whole system is trained to equate self-expression with danger, you don't begin by setting off emotional dynamite. You begin with the small acts that send your nervous system a new message. So that might look like saying, actually, I prefer to stay in tonight instead of going out because you feel like you should. Or choosing where you want to eat instead of saying, I don't mind, you choose it every time. Letting someone else be a little bit disappointed and realizing that you can survive that feeling. Every time you do this, the good child shadow will protest. You'll feel like guilt, the anxiety, the urge to backtrack, and that's okay. You're not aiming to feel amazing things straight away. You're aiming to stay with yourself through the discomfort instead of abandoning yourself to make it go away. There's something important I want to say here. Stepping out of the good child role doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a more honest one. You can still be kind, responsible, generous. The difference is that you're no longer sacrificing your entire self to keep those labels. Being good in a way that you were trained meant raising yourself. Being good and mature in a healthy way means including yourself. And I want to leave you with a simple reflection. You can journal or after this video. I want to leave you with a simple reflection. Where does my good child shadow run my life the most right now? Whether it's in my family, in my relationships, in my work, or all of the above. Write down a few examples, notice the patterns, and then pick one tiny situation in the next week where you're willing to experiment with not being perfectly good at just one. It might feel huge internally. Even if it looks small on the outside, that's enough to start. If this hits home for you, if you felt seen and maybe a little bit uncomfortable, then that's a good sign. It means that you're touching the real material. Let me know in the comments where your good child shadow shows up the strongest. You don't have to give any details if you don't want to, but just naming the arena is the first step to changing the game. And if you haven't watched the first video in this series yet, which is my last video, where I break down why you keep self-sabotaging right before life gets good, go back and watch that next. In the next video, we're going to be talking about procrastination and why you're not lazy, you're frozen. We'll link that directly back to this good child programming and show you how to start moving again without fighting yourself. You've been carrying the weight of the good one for long enough. It kept you safe when you were small, and you're not small anymore. It's time to find out who you really are beyond that role.